What's up guys, Chris here from Mainely Mesh, and today I'm going to teach you how to string a basic sidewall, actually a little bit advanced. We're going to be going through the 4 most important knots for stringing a sidewall, which are as follows: the anchor knot, the knotted SI, the stacked SI, and the 1. Yes, I will be addressing stringing to the inside, just not in this video. You can string pretty much any stick in the world if you can string these 4 knots. So we're going to take you through the 4 and then walk you through them so you can perform them. What you're going to need for this tutorial today is a head with a piece of mesh attached by a top string and a sidewall string. If you don't remember from yesterday, we're going to start with a starter knot. So I'm going to get my ugly mug out of the way this time. What you're going to do, hold it in your left hand, loop around once, loop around again, and then up through that hole, pulling everything tight. So once we have our string tied off, we are going to enter from the outside in of that sidewall hole and go up through the 10 diamond row, okay? What you're gonna notice here is that we only string through the 10 diamond rows. So any 9 diamond row in between, we're not gonna touch. You can if you wanna get super funky, it's not necessary. We're only gonna be focusing on the 10 diamond rows here. So I'm gonna loop back around and then into the right side there of that sidewall string, up through the 10 diamond row again and pulling it tight. That's my starter knot. That's how I'm gonna start all of my sidewalls. Once again, you can loop it through twice if you'd like, not necessary. Then I'm gonna enter in to start my anchor knot from the outside of that sidewall hole. I'm going to form this little loop here, okay, and bring the lead of the string from the left to the right of that loop. Okay, so I've made a nice little pretzel knot here, as you can see. Now the most important part is I need to pull the slack out from the inside. So see here, I'm grabbing the string from the inside of the head. Okay, I can't just pull the lead. I have to pull that inside section, pinch it with my left hand once all that slack is out, and then I can tighten the anchor knot to the inside of the head. So as you can notice here, that knot is situated more to the inside of the head. I'm basically just grabbing it with a knot. I'm gonna do it one more time for you guys so you can see. I've gone from the outside in of the sidewall up through that 10 diamond row, formed a loop, and then I go left to right, forming that little pretzel knot, pull the slack out from the inside. Single most important thing about stringing a head, I pull it tight from the inside, pinch with my left hand, and then pull the knot tight. Basically, the point of an anchor knot is to start out a head. We don't need to pull everything as wide as possible because what that's gonna do is it's gonna flare the head in, right? We don't need horizontal tension at this point. We need vertical tension. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to pull the mesh down and to the inside of the head. So we're not stretching out anything and adding unnecessary tension, but we're trying to set up our channel in this section of the head. That is the main reason why I use anchor knots pretty much exclusively. You're never gonna see it after like the first or second knot in any of my patterns. And then at that point, I'm going to move to a knotted SI. For the knotted SI, this time I'm gonna start a little bit differently. I am going to enter down through that mesh diamond and pull the string all the way through. So as you can see here, the string is in contact with the smooth side of the mesh, that back side of the mesh, not the rough side that I'm pointing to right there. And that's just gonna help us situate the knot a little bit later on. I'm gonna enter in through the outside of the sidewall hole, forming that loop again and making that nice little pretzel knot by entering through the left, exiting through the right, and I have my little knot there. Once again, I really need to pull out the slack from the inside. So that section of string that's coming from the inside of the head is what I pull, pinch with my left hand, and then tighten everything so I have a nice firm knot. We're about to loop back up through the mesh and pull it down around the knot. If you have what is the most common problem at this stage, where the mesh doesn't seem to situate itself on top of the knot, I need you to pause and make sure that knot that you've just tied looks exactly as tight as the one I am showing in this video. The reason sometimes that mesh will not flip over the knot is because you haven't tied the base knot tight enough and there's actually slack in the string and therefore the mesh isn't able to then pop over that knot. Here we go. So I'm gonna go up through that same 10 diamond and pull it down, situating it right on top of that knot. In order to do that, the easiest way to do it is I'm gonna pull quickly towards myself and then down over that knot, and you should see the mesh situate itself right on top of that knot. Okay, you can see there's a good amount of tension in here, so this is probably the trickiest part of this whole tutorial. I'm gonna show you another real quick, going down through the 10 diamond row, outside in through the sidewall, and then forming that loop again, going left to right through that loop. So I form a nice little pretzel knot again, okay? Remember, I need to pull out the slack from the inside out, okay? So from the inside, pull it super tight, pinch with my left hand, and then pull that knot tight. From here, I just have to weave right back up through that same 10 diamond row, and now I'm gonna situate that mesh down on top. Notice how that one was a lot easier. That's just because there's less tension at that point. That first knotted SI is typically the most difficult, so stick with it. Now we're gonna take you through the mother of all knots, the knotted stacked SI, okay? This knot has been critical, frankly, to my career, but we don't need to talk about that right now. That's for a theory video. I'm gonna teach you how to do this. This is a great way to add a nice little control on how much whip your stick has, how much whip it has when it's passing versus when it's shooting. It's a great knot, but let's teach you how to do it. So what we're gonna need to do is we are going to go down through 2 10 diamond rows. So I'm gonna go down through the first 10 diamond row. Then I'm gonna go down through the second 10 diamond row, back to back. So it's essentially like I'm starting 2 different KSIs. But so I've got 2 individual 10 diamond rows on that piece of string, and then I'm going to enter in through the outside of the sidewall and form that same knot again. Okay, I pulled it a little too tight. So I go left to right. This part is the exact same that we were just doing. Pull it tight from the inside. Okay, pull out all that slack. It's easy to get a lot of slack in here because I have 2 pieces of mesh on. Pulling it tight, and now I need to reverse course and go back up from bottom to top. So I'm gonna enter up through the second 10 diamond row, and then I'm gonna enter up through the first. So I've basically woven down and then right back up. So I've got 2, and then I pull it down just like I did the KSI, and you're gonna notice how those 2 10 diamond rows situate directly on top of that knot. Notice how I'm pulling extra mesh out of the way just so I can kind of prove to myself that I did this correctly. And I have those 2 pieces of mesh right on top. Now, I need to do something very important here. I need to tie just a regular knot without any mesh in it immediately after. The reason I do this has to do a little bit more with how mesh used to be constructed when it was a little more fragile, but it's something I still have kept in and I think is very important. If I go immediately into another knot here, you're essentially leaving a very exposed section of string to receive a lot of force from the actual mechanics of the movement of the ball going through the stick. And what happens is sometimes that'll actually break the string. So I like to add this little knot here just to disperse that tension, and it's actually gonna increase the longevity of your pocket. I hate it when strings rip. They don't tend to anymore because materials have gotten better. So this could be a relic of the past, but it's something I still keep in my sticks and I like. So I go outside in, and once again, I'm just forming that loop again, left to right, pulling out the tension from the inside of the head here, pull it nice and tight, pinch with my left hand, and pull that knot there. I like to think of it as like a period in a sentence where I've ended the first section of the head, I've kind of locked off that tension, and now I'm just gonna float a bunch of pieces of mesh, a bunch of rows of mesh in a couple of ones just to clear out the head. Moving on to the ones, this section of the head basically floats some mesh diamonds over sections of mesh. We've actually already done this when we were learning how to do a KSI, but it's easier to learn this in this sequence. What I'm doing is I'm going down through a 10 diamond row. I'm gonna go outside in of the sidewall hole, form that loop again, and go left to right. Then I'm gonna pull in that tension from the inside of the head, pull it nice and tight, pinch, and then lock off that knot. And what you're seeing here is I'm just letting one 10 diamond row float over a section of sidewall string. Okay, so it's the exact same thing. I was just pointing out it's the same thing as the KSI, except I don't go back up through the mesh. So I'm gonna do another one now, right, where I just go down through the 10 diamond and tie a knot. And that's all this is it's going down through a 10 diamond row, tying that knot, pulling the tension out from the inside, pinching with the left hand, pulling that knot tight. Okay, so see, once again, I got the 10 diamond row floating on that section of string. I'm gonna do one more here, down through that 10 diamond row, except this time how I finish, because I am at the end of my rope, I'm gonna go from the inside out instead of the outside in, pull this tight. Now I could tie a knot here if I wanted to, but it tends to slip and have a little slack, so I'm actually gonna loop around again from the inside out again and pull this tight. And so it's just kind of a little loop on just the plastic itself. Will help me pull out that tension, and now I'm gonna have that double overhand that I did at the top string as well. So I'm just looping it around once, forming that little overhand knot, pushing it as close to the sidewall as possible. See how I still have that little gap right there? So I'm gonna do one more, laying that string in the gap this time. So when I push everything through, I have this nice muddied mess of a knot that has pulled out all of the tension at the bottom. Nothing's gonna be slipping, nothing's gonna be inconsistent. And boom, you just strung a sidewall. Congrats, okay? Those 4 knots are really all you need to know. Like I said, we will address stringing to the inside as well in a different video, but in order to understand even the mechanics of stringing to the inside, I think you need to learn these knots first, understand their purpose, and then move on to something a little bit funkier, because otherwise I think you're stringing a little bit uninformed and you could actually be missing out on some of the potential of stringing to the inside, or stringing to the inside when you actually don't need to be. So those are the 4 knots: the anchor knot, the knotted SI, the stacked SI, and the 1. So as I take you through any tutorials, any patterns in the future, all you need to know is how to string those 4, and I'm just gonna be putting those 4 knots in different places on the stick, and you'll be good to go.